Oh yes, welcome once again everyone. It's Cannabis News. I'm your host Joe Klare. It's June 26, 2019. The show as always is presented by the Marijuana Times. You can check us out at marijuanatimes.org. Click that video tab at marijuanatimes.org to find this show. Bunch of great articles there as well from a ton of great writers, social media links, and more at marijuanatimes.org. Today, we're going to wrap up what happened in New York this year as far as adult use legalization goes. Also, industry, pot firms and different entities are coming together trying to create some sort of standards or set of standards for the cannabis industry, and more on how Health Canada is really screwing up legalization up north. All that's coming up. First, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by NatureSide, nature-side.com, and they are organic, all-natural pesticides, grow safe and poison-free. Don't use harmful chemicals on what you're growing. Don't use banned pesticides. Be regulatory compliant in the state that you are growing, and all of these things can be accomplished with the products from NatureSide, nature-side.com. They are awesome. Go and check them out, especially if you need all the things that I just mentioned. It's a great place to find and look and search and learn. First story by yours truly at marijuanatimes.org. New York settles for expanded decriminalization after adult use legalization fails. If you followed New York, if you watched this show, we talked a lot about it, a lot of articles at marijuanatimes.org as well. It was definitely happening, and it was definitely not happening. And then at the last minute, it may happen. And then in the end, it did not happen. And New York has to settle for expanded decriminalization. The legislation will reduce fines and close a so-called public view loophole used by police to get around the decriminalization that has existed in New York State since 1977. As you know, they say, hey, you punk, empty your pockets. You empty your pockets. There's weed there. You're busted. It's no longer decriminalized because it's out in public view. So it's an improvement, and it's a lot like just about every single thing that happens now in marijuana law reform. It's some success mixed with some failure. It's a success because it's an improvement. It's a failure because it was supposed to be adult use legalization, and they're fighting over, social justice issues and where the tax revenue is going to go. And in the end, they don't have to worry about where the tax revenue is going to go because there isn't any. Adult use legalization didn't happen. Maybe it'll happen next year. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what word to use. It's disconcerting a little bit that there's this constant mix of, we got some of what we wanted, but not all of it. There's still a lot of problems, still a long way to go. It means that we have to keep moving forward, obviously. We can never let up. We can never stop. Even after most people think that legalization is a done deal, there's still going to be stuff to do. There's always going to be stuff to do. There's always going to be improvements that need to be made. And, excuse me, the fact that this is going to be a never-ending battle is a little sad. It really is. It's a sad. Prohibition was sad, tragic. Legalization is going to be tragic because it's not going to be good enough. A lot of people are still going to get caught under the wheels of marijuana laws, no matter what happens. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get sappy, but it didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be this way. Marijuana users were literally not bothering anybody. They just weren't. All the stories that Harry Anslinger had, all those horror stories, they're all made up. None of them happened. The guy in Florida or whatever that axed his family because he was high on marijuana, it didn't happen. The things he told the Congress, the things he said about marijuana making darkies think they're as good as white men and are going to take our white women, none of these things were even remotely true. None of these things were even remotely something to be feared. And yet, here we are. It's sad. It's sad. If there was one person in history that I could go back and just kick in the cojones, it'd be Harry Anslinger. A lot of people say Hitler. I'm gonna think outside the box. I'm gonna go with Harry Anslinger, right in the kibbles and bits. But alas, there are no testicle kicking time machines, at least that I know of. If you know more than me, please feel free to leave a comment because I want to look into this. I would really like to look into this. I think this would change so much if we had ball kicking time machine technology. Clear away a lot of stuff. Maybe while Anslinger, go back to where Anslinger was going to testify before Congress, and before he gets to the room, you just run up and kick him right in the groin. May change the course of history. Instead of his pet project being marijuana prohibition, maybe his pet project would have been punishing those who go around kicking others in the groin. Who knows? Now we'll never know, because I don't have the time machine. And for that, I blame you all. All of you watching and listening to this, I blame you for the lack of this technology. You're not working hard enough, obviously, on this issue that I just brought up 45 seconds ago. Really, it's something that needs to be addressed by you people who greatly disappointed me. This next story from Bloomberg.com. Pot firms seek to transition from sin stocks to ethical darlings. A group of 45 companies operating in the cannabis industry has crafted a set of standards that they hope could one day transform them from sin into ESG darlings. ESG is environmental, social, and governance framework. They want to put the framework in place to attract wary institutional investors like pension funds. A group called the Global Cannabis Partnership announced Tuesday that it's created an ESG framework that will look at issues ranging from greenhouse gas emissions to product safety to ethical conduct. Laura Wood, chair of the Global Cannabis Partnership Advisory Board, said, quote, "The hope is that this will be to cannabis what fair trade is to coffee." I don't get that reference. I'm not a coffee person. I know nothing about coffee, but I'm guessing that fair trade is some sort of industry standard setter in the coffee industry. I have no idea. Members range from pot firms like Cannabis Growth Incorporated, or Cannabis Growth Corporation rather, and EFRIA Incorporated, government agencies and law firms, and represent countries ranging from Canada to Australia, the UK, and Israel. The certification process is being developed with the help from global accounting firm EY. Certification will be granted by an independent evaluation panel. You guys know me, you know my political leanings. You know that I am anti-government, which we'll get even more to in the next story. Just anything the government touches is degraded in some way. And so for obvious reasons, I'm more for the industry coming together and setting its own standards than I am for heavy-handed regulations that come from government. The main reason being that the people who are doing the regulating in government have no idea about the cannabis industry. They know nothing about it. They barely know how to write regulations. They barely know their job, as we've seen in places like Florida and many other states and countries. These people have no idea what they're doing. It takes them years to come up with forms and to write regulations and to discuss things. They're not even good at that. So they know nothing about the cannabis industry that they are tasked to evaluate and regulate. But these people do. These 45 companies and people that are getting together to set these standards, it's a simple thing. It's the same thing as the Better Business Bureau or anything else. You become a member. You're a member of good standing. That means something to people. You're no longer a member of good standing. They kick you out. That means something to people. It's something they can point to and look to and know that a set of standards has that this company or whatever has been evaluated under these set of standards, and that's what they can go by. In the age of the internet, it becomes less important with things like reviews and all that, but it's still something that, like they said, if they want to bring in more heavy investments, not just the people who buy stocks, as they call them, and the Bloomberg retail investors, more of the big dogs, if you will. And the only way to do that is to have set standards and to be like every other industry and to be treated like every other industry, which the cannabis industry is not, clearly. And I know it's early in the game. I get it, but I don't know. Just treating it differently from everything else is not helpful to the industry at all. And we're seeing the effects. Namely, not only seeing the effects in places like California, but up in Canada, seeing problems as well. This is from the Motley Fool. Health Canada just failed the marijuana industry again. Excuse me. In terms of growth prospects, no industry is blazing a trail quite like legal marijuana. The newly released State of the Legal Cannabis Markets report from ArcView Market Research and BDS Analytics calls for more than $40 billion in global licensed store revenue by 2024, up from just under $11 billion in 2018. It's a compound annual growth rate of 24%, which is quite impressive. Even more interesting are these paragraphs down a little further. They talk about the problems with Canada getting their program up and running we talked about before. Declining sales month over month, which is odd for an expanding, quote unquote, legal marijuana industry. So growers, first of all, they had problems because until they knew that this was going to be law, they didn't start building their operations, so that it put a hit on supply, which has raised prices, which has caused problems. But here's some interesting paragraphs. Second problem, most growers have also complained of compliant packaging shortages. Regulatory agency Health Canada laid out a series of guidelines that growers, processors, distributors, and retailers would need to follow if they wanted pot products to wind up on cannabis store shelves. This led to a shortage of compliant packaging in the early going, which in turn has kept unfinished cannabis sitting on the sidelines. That is government control of a market in a nutshell. And government control of a market just doesn't come from, hey, we took over this market, we've seized the means of production or whatever. If you have heavy enough regulations and you have them involved enough in an industry, it's tantamount to government control of an industry. You're seeing things like this. A shortage of compliant packaging has left perfectly good products sitting on the shelves where no one can buy it. That's been seen in just about every socialist economy, well, in every socialist economy ever. Massive shortages. Because government and government agencies don't have to respond to the pressures of the market. They have no competition. Then if you're in Canada, there's no, you have Health Canada, and that's it. There's no Health Canada 2.0 or Super Duper Health Canada or Walmart Health Canada. There's nowhere else to go. If you don't like what Health Canada is doing, you have to leave the country. If you don't like the way Health Canada runs things in Canada, you have to leave Canada. There's nowhere else to go. There's no market pressure. There's no competition. There's none of that. There's no prices. There's no feedback. Well, there's some feedback, but again, what are you going to do? If you got a problem with Health Canada, what are you going to do? You're going to call them? You're going to leave a voicemail? You're going to leave a nasty comment on Facebook? It doesn't matter because they don't care. Because they know you're not going anywhere unless you leave the country. They don't have to worry about competition. They don't have to worry about you finding someone else take care of your problem. They know they're the only people that can take care of your problem. And in many cases, they're the ones that caused your problem. And again, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. You're going to do nothing about it. That's what. You're going to move? You're going to move out of the country? I doubt it. So, you have crap. Hey, here's the next one. The next paragraph. But the biggest problem of all has arguably been the regulatory red tape associated with Health Canada. Oh, thank you, government. Really, really a great job. As the agency tasked with reviewing and approving or denying cultivation, processing, distribution, and sales license applications, Health Canada was working with a backlog of more than 800 applications in January, which we talked about at the time. And I know, and there's a lot of people out there going, oh, but we need government to do this and do that, and you're just a silly libertarian and blah, 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 blah. That's fine. That's fine. Feel free to mock me while you wait for government agencies to destroy legalization, because it's happening everywhere. As I've said often enough, the worst part of legalization is that the government has to enact it. And they're going to screw it up. And we've seen that I spend 30% of my time talking about places where government has screwed up legalization. And I think that's a conservative estimate. It's probably more like 40 or 50. And I'm not going to stop talking about it. I'm not going to stop pointing it out. Because we've entered an era where, well, government takes care of everything else. We'll just let the government just sell the weed. It's fine. They want to tell businesses when to close. They want to have all these restrictions and regulations and treat marijuana as if it's like nuclear waste, relegated to industrial zones like a strip club. All that's fine. Sure, they'll run it great because they obviously know what they're doing. That's why they're in government. That's why they said, oh, no. There's people out there in the market and the competition. You got to be good at your job and you have to be personal and you have customer service skills. No. I'm going to get a job in government. You don't need customer service skills. You don't even answer the phone. What are they going to do? Go to another Canada? Go to another United States? No. Call a government agency. Call them. Call a bunch of them. See how many of them answer your call. It's not many. A lot of voicemails. A lot of, hey, this automated system turns off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because we're all going home. It's a lot of that, especially in the United States. It's even worse in Canada, I'm sure, where the government's even more entrenched in the everyday life of people. And you get what you get. I mean, you have inferior people who face no consequences for being wrong or being bad at their job. A lot of them are going to be bad at their job. It's just, the consequences for being bad at your job are necessary to make more people good at their job. There's some in those circumstances that are great at their job. They have pride in what they do, even without the incentive of maybe fearing being fired or something like that. They have pride. They do their job well. But most people in government do not. And if you're offended by that and you work in government, you say, hey, I work hard. Well, good for you. Because I bet if you work in government, you know a bunch of people who don't. They don't work hard at all because they don't have to. They can't be blamed. If government owned this program, this podcast, and made everybody, just send it out to everybody, I wouldn't have to do much. But I do have to do something because there's like a million other video casts and podcasts you can watch or listen to. So I better bring something to the table. And if I don't, well, then my viewership goes down. And if my viewership goes down, then my bosses will say, hey, your viewership went down. This show is not doing what it's supposed to do. We're not going to do it anymore. And then that's it. But that's not the way the government works. The government would just keep me on the air. Keep me on the air. I'd be snoring. I could faceplant right into this camera for 20 minutes. Say, oh, what are you going to do? Huh? You're going to do another podcast? No, this is it. This is it. This is Health Canada podcast. Son, there's no other podcast that you can go listen to. If you don't like it, too bad. Move to Somalia, you hippie. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening today to this edition of Cannabis News. We're here 5 days a week. The Marijuana Times, of course, marijuanatimes.org. Search the Marijuana Times on YouTube and Vimeo. Search Apple Podcasts for the audio version of the show. Thank you all for watching and listening, sharing the truth about cannabis through this program. You are awesome. We'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.